Hi everyone. In the last couple of months, I've been living a series of life-changing experiences, and all involving Bitcoin. And a lot of them have inspired me to start recording all my conversations with Bitcoiners from all around the world, all kinds of people, all backgrounds, all ages, and asking them about their perspective on my country, Bitcoin country, El Salvador. And so I'm going to start recording those conversations and uploading them to YouTube in a podcast kind of format. So I hope you guys enjoy. And the first one is going to be with Robbie. He's a recording and performing artist from Melbourne, Australia. And he has made some great songs about Bitcoin, like Bitcoin slang. And so I hope you guys enjoy. And all his links are going to be in the description. And comment and like and share and all that stuff. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys like this content.
Pay attention on how I break this Bitcoin slang down. A Bitcoin is a currency, blockchain is technology. Transactions take place on it constantly. A public key is your address.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
So-
yeah, if you can send me a copy of this once it's done as well, I'd really appreciate it too.
I will. And yeah, for starters, you're Robbie, right? That's your name.
That's my name, Robbie.
So I found you because, well, YouTube suggested me the video of Bitcoin slang. And
yeah,
and man, you put one of my favorite moments of all time at the end of the video. Max Kaiser like fucking up Peter Schiff. Like I've watched that full thing so many times because it's so freaking hilarious. How
he
Peter
roasts
just
him hard. Yeah.
yeah. So Robbie, tell us a little bit about you, and also tell us when and how do you started like knowing about Bitcoin and all of that.
That goes back quite some time. So a bit about me. My name is Robbie P. I'm a recording performing artist from Melbourne, Australia. I've been recording, making music for about 20 years. I used to go by a previous name, which was Zootek. And I mean, there's a bit of a backstory, but moving on to like the present day right now, I've just put out my album in March. I've been putting out some NFTs. I continue to do Bitcoin and crypto themed music as well. The first time I heard about Bitcoin, it was around $2, and I was learning about finance. At that time, I was deep into like gold and silver, learning about precious metals, learning about what money is and what money isn't. And then a YouTuber said, "Oh, by the way, Bitcoin's $2 today." And I didn't think much of it. I wasn't curious enough to dive in. But I vividly remember, like, doing my things, taking my notes, and that hit me. And I was like, okay. And then I heard it again a couple of weeks later. And then the second time I heard about it, yeah, I learned everything I could about it in that moment. And like I soaked in what I could, the ethos of Bitcoin, the original, like the grassroots, where it came from, the crypto punks.
And so which year is it?
Cypherpunks. Yeah, that was like 2012, 2013. By the end of 2013, I was deep into it. I was like talking about it, telling everyone about it.
Oh man, like it's so funny how everyone goes through the same rabbit hole. Like you start thinking about it, talking about it, and then it's all you have in your mind basically because it's such a revolutionary like technology. So it's
Yeah.
so exciting, right?
Did you when you learned about Bitcoin, did you dive down the rabbit hole for like 40, 50 hours in 1 week? All you did was Bitcoin?
Not totally, I think. No, actually I didn't because I started like knowing about it thanks to the Kaiser report. And and I just remembered knowing about it because I was studying computer science in high school, and
Yeah.
and it was like a topic that everyone kind of knew about it, but not really. And
Yeah.
yeah, I fucked that up and I didn't bought when I could have at $20 and all of that.
Yeah. Wow.
That same story. I did mine on my laptop in 2013 for like 4 hours, and but I have no idea what happened to that. It's just in a
Oh,
very old
wow.
hard disk drive.
Yeah, crazy.
How do you feel that Bitcoin has changed your life?
It's unraveled. Like everything. It's taught me about politics. It's taught me about finances and how all that stuff interconnects. You know, Max Kaiser talks a lot about like the corrupt banking system, the Ponzi scheme that is fiat currency. And then that ties into so much other stuff too. So I think for me, Bitcoin has taught me more about how the world works. Like I wouldn't know if I didn't study Bitcoin, you know, and Bitcoin, I think, unravels for a lot of people, I guess, the layers of the onion. Start peeling it back and you start to see like, okay, this is interesting. But to be able to get involved in something like Bitcoin early on and then see it get to this point where it's now, like the conviction's there. It's been there for a number of years, you know, and then to be able to trust yourself to like, hey, actually I can make some good decisions and I can learn stuff and like, hey, I'm not an idiot. You know, like to reaffirm to yourself that's major.
Yeah, I get that feeling because at some point it's just like us being like a little bit of conspiracy theories kind of people, kind of. And so we feel
Yeah.
like, I personally feel like, do I really know all that crap that I'm thinking about, that the government is corrupt and all those things that happen? But then it's just a matrix, you know. You just have to like
Yeah.
accept it and realize the truth, and that actually society is kind of like a huge like thing on everybody's faces that don't let them like see through that and see reality how it is. And even though
Yeah.
maybe everyone around us like thinks otherwise, at the end, like everything is just, it just happens. Like come on, COVID, what, just imagine COVID now and all the things that happen is just like so reaffirming, I think is the word. Just
It's
it's
also like
crazy.
for the conspiracy theory stuff, like it's validating. Like, oh, well, you know, like people like I think there's a number of different types of people in the world that will go down these different rabbit holes. Some people take it more seriously, other people just acknowledge it exists, and other people are blind and refuse these ideas. You know, I call it the woo-woo, you know? And I think when you learn about Bitcoin and like you're saying as well, like it just reaffirms like ideas that you had about the world. Like, no, actually that kind of makes sense, especially when you understand the grassroots nature of Bitcoin.
Yeah. What have you heard about El Salvador? What's your view on my country?
So all right, so when I first heard about it, I was watching the Bitcoin Miami conference last year, when Jack announced the you know the whole thing, the legal tender, the message from the president of El Salvador, and it just inspired me. And that's when I made that song specifically about that topic before it was legal tender in El Salvador. And then when I talked to people about it, the common theme that people know about El Salvador is high crime rates, murder, this and that, gang violence. You know, you'll be a gringo in this country if I ever go there, kind of thing. You know, you're. Can I swear on this podcast?
Absolutely.
You're fucking gringo, and like you know, but when I looked online and I actually went to BitChute and I found this guy that was traveling between Paraguay, El Salvador, crossing borders, and he had his dog with him, and you could sense like a vibe, like constantly on his guard, but it was safe enough for him to travel through and, you know, experience the country. And I think he had been there for a number of years. So I was watching that, and then to get away from the ideas of the violence. And then I've seen other people do podcasts, go to El Salvador, use Bitcoin ATMs, talk to the Bitcoiners in the area, and it seems safe. It's like there's violence everywhere in the world. You know, I think if you're around good people, you can, minimize that.
Yeah, a very interesting phenomena about the violence here is that is, I will say, super exclusively between gang members and maybe
Mm,
locals. It's very interesting because let's say that I go to Miami or I go to Orlando or somewhere in the US, and I can get shoot just by being somewhere, right? Or I
yeah,
can get profiled. Somebody got mad at me for some reason. It can be an act of violence of some kind. But if you come here, there is this mentality of Europeans, Australians, USA people, first world people, like the gangs will not even look back at you because it's very clear that they would have enough, like way too many problems to even like annoy a tourist. And so
Mm,
it's kind of like the violence occurs between gangs, and it's like it's just between gang stuff. It's a whole phenomenon. I've never heard of a white person, let's say, being like um, annoyed in any way in this country.
mm.
Maybe in the 80s when there was the war, but that was
What
different.
What do you think the gang violence stems from? Like, is it like disputes about drugs? Is it, mafia type stuff? Like, what do you think
So
the gang violence is about?
so in the 80s, in 1979, there was started a war, a civil war in here, and that was because we had military dictatorships, and the people was fed up with that, and so the war started. It ended in 1991, and after the
Mm,
war, a bunch of corruption happened and a lot of crap shit, and so after the war, a bunch of Salvadoreños started migrating to the U.S. During the war too, and even before. But in the 90s, the US started deporting a bunch of people, especially from LA and high crime areas of the US, and they imported the concept of the gang. And so it comes
mm,
from the gangs of LA. And actually
yeah.
MS-13 started in LA. And so there is two gangs, just two gangs, it's MS-13 and 18, and Barrio 18 is the other one. And
Yeah.
so it's like the people that are in the gangs are the most dispossessed, and they start very young, and they get like super brainwashed into tribalism. And so if they see someone from the other gang, actually by law of the gang they have to kill that person, like
Oof.
actually.
Just
And
straight off the bat. Like,
yes,
yeah.
yes, and they start when
Wow.
they're like 13 years old, and the
Yeah.
initiation part sometimes is killing someone else or getting beat up like a lot. And so it happens this thing when there is people that have never leave their area, and everything works in areas. This is the area of the MS-13, and this is the area of Barrio 18. And the problem with money, not enough resources, like all the U.S. intervention for our natural resources, all of that crap. I don't know if you are familiar with the concept of the financial hitman, and so we are very fucked with that thing. And
Well,
so
financial hitman. Can you
yeah,
elaborate more
so
on
the
what you mean by that?
so the financial hitman, well, is a book by a financial hitman who actually was describing how certain, I guess they're just like people that work for companies that which work is to go to a country rich with rich on natural resources that maybe has not a lot of like money or stability. So they go
Mm,
there and they arrange a loan from the IMF or the World Bank for that country, and then they start messing up with their governments, and so basically they just endebt the country, and so the companies can buy the resources very cheap to give them to maybe China to elaborate stuff and to sell to the US. And so we've been like the whole Latin America area and also Africa are the victims of that concept of financial hitmen. And so that creates instability, poverty, and all of those things are good for the existence of the gangs. It just helps the gangs flourish because the gangs are like the gang.
security for the financial hitman.
It is too, but the reason why the kids get into the gangs is because they have no better prospects of life, because
Yeah.
so that's how the cycle goes. And so
That's
yeah, actually,
yeah.
yeah, gangs are notoriously for working for the hitman. And there are videos and of politicians of my country giving a lot of money to the gangs so they can vote for certain politicians or they can keep the peace. And so it's a bunch of like it's a bunch of crazy stuff that had happened before Najib Bukele, which is the current president, got into power. And so now everything is like changing, and it's like day and night. Like it's not like that at all in the past 3 years.
How much? Yeah, okay. I was gonna ask, how long has he got left in? Like in Australia, our politicians get voted every 4 years. So, like we got a voting season coming up here. In your country, how many more years? Bukele, if I'm saying it right, how long has he got left?
I think he
as a president?
has. I think he has 2 more years. Here is 5 years of presidency. He wants to change the law so he can get reelected, because you can get reelected, but not right away. But I think he wants to change the law. He has 2 more years. The thing is that he is so freaking powerful right now. Like everyone loves him in terms of like maybe Alexander the Great or something like that, or Napoleon in their best part, because it never happens that a politician has the full acceptance of the population. Never, ever, nowhere. But he almost does. He has like 85% of hardcore support, and that's super unheard of. And he keeps on growing the acceptance.
He's really young as well, so like he has a long political life ahead of him. Feels like it.
Yeah, and the changes that he is making are super profound. Like Bitcoin is just an example. A lot of people ask me if El Salvador is having a good time right now, if he is like growing and getting better thanks to Bitcoin, but not really. It's thanks to Najib Bukele.
Yeah,
Bitcoin is just starting. Like it's just in an embryonic moment right now. It's just freaking started for everything. And like not a lot of things have happened because of Bitcoin, but a bunch of stuff has happened because of Nayib Bukele, including Bitcoin. So we're just starting. Like it hasn't been not even a year, and obviously there's a bunch of like things that have to get better, like adoption, education, which is very important, and there are so many tourists now and that's why I was asking you, would you like to come to El Salvador and experience it yourself? It will be super cool.
Definitely. Going to El Salvador is definitely like something that I want to do at some stage in my life, sooner than later. You know, I think the last 2 years with the pandemic around the world threw things out of whack. People weren't sure, but hey, like I like the idea that El Salvador has made Bitcoin legal tender. You know, like if I go to El Salvador, I don't have to worry about like selling Bitcoin. I can just use it right then and there. And that's the biggest advantage for anyone. And I think there's a lot of nomads around the world right now that are looking at countries like El Salvador. And I think I've heard about Paraguay potentially doing this as well, the legalization of Bitcoin as legal tender. But nomads around the world are going to look at this and like, well, why do I want to stay in my location when I can jump ship, go somewhere else where I'm actually appreciated, I'm contributing to the economy, and it's aligning with the values? I think
I think I had seen something similar in Thailand. I think a few years ago in Thailand, there was a big Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash community there. But now it's so different because you can actually walk into any store, and it's not all the stores. It's a few, the major ones except, and mostly do. Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy. It's like heaven because and it's super crazy because 2 years ago it was not the case at all, and then now I personally live in the country where that is possible, and there is so many like meetups of Bitcoiners, and this is a different country. The last 3 years is absolutely incredible, and there is so much investments. There are so many companies and financial pools that are investing in this country right now in so many ways and helping Bitcoiners here. And they're giving away nodes, actually, lightning nodes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
that's wild.
Yeah, it's super.
And all that stuff helps secure the Bitcoin network around the world. So it's a benefit for everyone. I'm getting
Exactly.
goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps just hearing
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, and I personally, I haven't met Max and Stacy just because of fate, because every single time they're going to be somewhere I never go, and when I go, they don't go. And right now they are in the US, but I probably am going to meet them very soon. I'm going to meet Stacy in July because I'm going to a Jimmy Choo, um, um, what's the word for this? It's like a class. It's going to be a 2-day class for Bitcoin developing on Python
Yeah.
for financial stuff. And so I got in, like I was the first one to get in, and Stacy is the one paying for it for all the Salvadoreños. So we're gonna meet her there.
Wow.
But I met Jeff Booth. I don't know if you know who he is,
Yeah, yeah.
and now he
He's
follows me
so
on Twitter.
smart.
Yeah,
What? That's crazy.
yeah,
Jeff Booth, man.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. So it's all happening. So like Stacy and Max, I heard that they were thinking of relocating. Like during the pandemic, they
They
were like
are
looking at El Salvador.
they are living here basically. They just went back for a month to the US, and they have been staying in El Sonte, which is the beach town where everything started, and also in the capital. So
That
the
Bitcoin beach.
Bitcoin Beach, El Sonte. The original name is El Fonte. Yeah, they've been like everywhere. Like I have not met them because I haven't tried enough. Basically, everyone I know knows them, and this
That's
was a point in the middle of nowhere. This country was nothing 5 years ago, and
yeah.
now is everything. And we're
Yeah.
developing everything. And actually, I am making the case that this country right now is a lot like conceptually like Dubai in the 80s in terms of land price, because land
Yeah.
price going super up, and innovation and investment, because yeah, it's crazy.
So when businesses come into El Salvador to invest or start like projects or what's something that's like obviously that Bitcoin ATMs are already there. You've got Lightning Network providers assisting with Lightning Network education. What else is happening like business wise in El Salvador that's just getting started now?
Okay, so this is a very interesting topic because somehow the people that I've talked to, especially the people in Miami, that
Yeah.
they live like in a very Bitcoin strong place, which is Miami. They
Yeah.
feel, and in the US everything happens very fast because everything is already there. You just have to start putting on money. But in El Salvador, we need education first. And actually, I am a part of an NGO that is called My First Bitcoin. And what we do is we go everywhere to all the communities to educate people on Bitcoin. And by law, not by law, but by Najib has said that he is going to start to ease investments and to not put taxes on capital gains, for example, and the construction of the Bitcoin city, which is going to be an even freer area. But all those things are just starting. They were in the plan for the first months, and now they are passing on. And I mean, right now we are in a phase that I call the phase of recognition. I mean, investors are coming to just feel how's the environment, to just
Yeah.
look at things, to just get a feeling of what's going on. Max and Stacy started a capital called El Sonte Capital, and Jeff Booth started another one. So they are starting to be funded certain pools of money with the purpose of funding startups. And right now it's like a recognition phase. Everyone is coming here to see what up, to get to know the locals like me, and to get a feeling. Because like for example, in Dubai, you have to, if you are going to start a business, you need a local to start it with. You cannot be majority owner of a business in Dubai, and I think also in South Korea and in Japan. So it's not the same here, but obviously when you start a business in a new country, you need to know the people there. So that's how it started right now. Everybody's like doing connections, this is like the early moments of what I call the next Silicon Valley, because it's
Do you reckon?
great.
I love that. Do you reckon like with this like the Bitcoin city, are they moving towards making that like a smart city where it's all QR codes, cashless, Bitcoin?
I think so. But the thing is that Bitcoin City is just a concept right now. The Bitcoin
Yeah.
bonds haven't even like been deployed, because a problem that we had a month ago, where the gangs tried to make a lot of noise. They killed 67 people in one day, just like that,
Oof.
just like that. And and I think that it was because of the Bitcoin bonds, because it was in the week that they were supposed to be deployed, and so they haven't been like deployed, the Bitcoin bonds. But since that day, the government has arrested 14,000 gang members. And
Wow.
they're in jail, like 14,000. We're a very small country, and they just arrested 14,000 people. It's like crazy. And now it's like a week without violent kills. Like we have, it's been controlled. It was a problem, and it was always gang and gang member like violence. I don't know what's gonna happen with the gang members now, but they're done now. Like it's done.
Well,
And
you know, I think if Bitcoin still has resistance to like who knows who, like I know like going back 5 years, 6 years, banks were still like very like this is like trying to like suppress Bitcoin. Like the FUD comes on the news, price tanks, China bans this and that. I think the UK right now are trying to like ban Bitcoin hypercoinization, Bitcoinization, and I think like the gang members could be turned into mercenaries financed by like corrupt bankers. Like that could happen, right?
that's
But it's just the
literally what I think happened a month
yeah,
ago. That's literally what I think it happened. I think
yeah,
that maybe Christine Lagarde or someone paid someone that paid someone that paid a politician that paid the gangs to do that day.
yeah.
So the Bitcoin bonds weren't like happening. I think that's what
Mm.
happened. So
It's history repeats itself in funny ways, and these are things that have happened multiple times in the past.
from forever.
Yeah, yeah,
And actually the interesting thing about the circular economy around Bitcoin is that I personally, I can picture and I can see how we are going to stop needing dollars, like absolutely. Like you
yeah,
can see now how China and well, Russia has no dollar reserves, and they have a bunch of natural resources. China is stopping using the dollars. The Saudis are starting to use the renminbi from the Chinese to sell their oil. And I can totally see how in 5 years my country might not even need dollars at all. And because the Bitcoin circular economy is starting to work here. It's starting to exist within little communities, but with time, it's going to start to get bigger. And there's going to come a moment where in Latin America, and maybe with the people that we make um, transactions with, we're just not going to need the dollars. And it's going to be crazy because my country is the first country that's starting to buy actually Bitcoin for their reserves. So I can see everything shifting, absolutely everything. We don't have mask mandates. We don't have vaccine mandates of anything. I actually think we're one of the most freest countries in the whole world right now. And the safest, kind of, because of the gangs, but still, I think it's pretty safe because of the nature of the violence that happens. And
yeah.
so, and infrastructure is getting so much better. Education is getting so much better.
I was gonna say, like, I know, like a few months ago when this was happening in, like, I think September, October, August, even last year, there was protests in El Salvador. We don't want Bitcoin legal tender. Maybe people were just resistant to it. Like with any government coming in saying we're going to do this, you're going to have people like, no, we don't like that. We like it how it was.
Yeah.
And sometimes the government will do that, and it's actually a detriment for the society. And sometimes the government comes in and it's a benefit. And I think people are now realizing that the Bitcoinization is a benefit for El Salvador, especially when like you educate people on what the future is, like, you know, financial literacy with Bitcoin and that whole ecosystem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's happening. And actually the people, they were like, there were people that were going to protest anyways just because of Najib. They were trying to find any reason to protest, and they were like 150 people protesting on the big city. And
Yeah.
but the
What
news, they like to be, they like to put it like if it's like a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I mean,
I was gonna say, in Melbourne, right here in Australia, when lockdown, because like last year Melbourne made the record for the longest city in lockdown in the world at that point. After 2 years, we were in lockdown for, I can't remember the number, like it was ridiculous. We made the record. And it got to a point where people were protesting almost every day in Melbourne. And then at some point, protesters came out and they started protesting against the protesters. So they had a flag, freedom, DUM, voting, like protesting that they like lockdowns and they like everything that's happening. And it just, it felt like some sci-fi thing. It just, I felt like, yeah, this just felt so weird.
and how
You
is the
know,
lockdown now in Australia?
so in Melbourne, they've just dropped mandates. Like there's still mandates for certain businesses. They say we're going to let the businesses deal with the mandates themselves. So some businesses can choose to still require vaccinated residents or employees, even real estate, and then other businesses can choose not to. So it's opening up a bit. But
Yeah.
I think it's because the voting this year, we're voting for new prime ministers and premiers, and who knows what happens after.
Yeah, that's super crazy because we always in the whole world, we always think of Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, especially like very free societies. And mine, like we never had not even mask mandates. Like for like 6 days when everything started, you needed to have a mask on the streets for like 6 days. And since then, it was not required unless you were inside of, I don't know, an institution. And then for the past year, it has been up to the institution to decide if they want to. And literally yesterday, they dropped all mandates of all kind of anything in
Yesterday,
schools yesterday. Of
that's the same as like Victoria yesterday. It's just crazy.
yeah, in the flights on the airplanes too. Like that was 2 days ago, I think so. But maybe
Yeah.
something happened. Maybe Anthony Fauci said something. I feel like it's all like Muppets being controlled by something. But
You know,
yeah,
I think a lot of like the other coiners, like, you know, anyone that's into any other cryptocurrency that have come from 2017 onwards, from the hype of 2017 and last year when we were all-time highs, a lot more like Bitcoin is full of a lot of people who kind of realize the puppetry that goes on, right? That because that whole ethos of Bitcoin from day one was about like, we don't like the puppetry. And it's great that the Bitcoiners are still bringing that ethos forward. I think the other cryptos, the people that are adopting them aren't as open-minded to that idea as Bitcoiners are. And I think it's Bitcoiners appreciate, they're open to the experience of something different, something new. Whereas I think the other guys have come in because, hey, oh, this is a thing, it's happening. Oh, you can make money there. NFTs over here. And I'm just waiting for the day where we can do NFTs as popular as like Ethereum blockchain.
I think it's like Facebook. I think it's like
Yeah.
Facebook or WhatsApp. Like at first, just a few people use it, then the young people, and now my mom uses it. You know, after
Yeah.
several years, she doesn't really know how it works or why it started or everything, but she uses it because she likes to talk with my dad. So they just use it. They just adopt it.
Don't talk to me unless you got Bitcoin. That's what it's like, right? Nah.
Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes on social media. Don't talk to me unless this and that. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing that has happened in your life thanks to Bitcoin?
Like the little bits of money that I made along the way, Bitcoin. Like I first sold music for Bitcoin in 2014. And then that was like $20 or so that I made back then that turned into over 1,000. When I put up the original Bitcoin slang video, I think the one that you shared on your profile, at the end, I had a QR code to accept donations, and those donations turned into something amazing too. And then at the end, like I trimmed that off and I've removed that QR code just for like, I don't know, I just didn't want that up there for eternity. I was like, oh, that's great. I made some donations. I'll just leave it up and not expect that. You know, and then moving on to now, just the crazy thing is like trusting myself, trusting my judgment, like to be able to trust my judgment and realize that maybe I am like 6 years ahead of the curve, just like you know,
Yeah.
maybe more, 8 years ahead of the curve.
Yeah, because I feel like, especially if you're like a man, young, especially for some reason when we are guys, like I think it's more difficult that the fact that we are supposed to provide, like nature wired us to be able to provide, and when we live in a society where we're not needed sometimes, and it's difficult to get a job or to get the recognition of actually having some money, it's like it crushes our self-esteem somehow and makes us feel like maybe our judgment is not correct, because I feel like that a lot. And I'm 27, but right now things are starting to work like a lot, and so I feel like more confident in my own opinion, even though it's kind of like the same opinion, but I just felt self-confident about it. And thanks to Bitcoin, thanks to the community, thanks to being able to making interviews with people around the world, and all of these things that we all have going on, thanks to to Bitcoin, it just like helps our self-esteem, I think, somehow. I feel like that's why I'm telling you that I feel like everyone, especially young people, should like come to this country, because everything is going on right now here in this country. And it's like coming very early to a very high profile city or country in the future. Like if you come here now, like you're gonna have so much advantage on whatever you might want to do. Like you make music, I make music too. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like art always flourish when there is like a bunch of innovation, like in Florence or in New York or in London. So I think that there's going to be a bunch of music and artists here in the country in a very few years. And yeah, I think it's crazy.
It makes sense to join a community that's rising up and not declining. And then if you get in early on the community, like if you get in early on Instagram, when you know, like you can get 100 followers in the first few months Instagram's around, over time we just build. Like it's the same with this situation here. I definitely have it in my heart to come to El Salvador at some stage. It's just all about timing, finances, planning it, passports and everything like that, you know. And I think if I can like go back to what you were saying about like roles of masculinity as well, like I definitely understand what you mean too. You know, like it's like men are like ridiculed on TV. You got this thing with Johnny Depp happening right now in the USA with its trial, and it's always pushed towards like I don't know, feminism takes a big role in this. But I think I definitely hear what you're saying in that as well. And I feel like, because I've had some gender struggles in the past, right? And I think it comes down to, when I really thought about it, like men's roles being not respected. And if a man's not respected in what they do in the day-to-day life, and the fact that, you know, men build huge bridges and work their asses off doing concreting and everything else, if you're not getting respected, you're just kind of like, oh, fuck this, you know? And I think Bitcoin's given a lot of men purpose, right? And I think, you know, we're seeing women come into the space and gender diverse people and the LGBT community also. But overall, like, I see Bitcoin doing good things across the board. And people always say, Bitcoin fixes this, Bitcoin fixes that. And
Bitcoin fixes it. Bitcoin fixes it. Tell me, where do you see Bitcoin in like 5-10 years? Do you have expectations? Would you have like a visualization of where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? And where do you think Bitcoin is going to be in 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years.
Maybe 2, 3.
No, it's going to be around. Like it's going to be around. Like the adoption happening in El Salvador right now, the hyper Bitcoinization. It's still going to be a prominent coin. Like it's the granddaddy, even though a lot of people think, oh, it's old, it's slow. Like they don't realize that anything that any other coin can do can now be built on top of Bitcoin sidechains and the layer 2, and then later on the layer 3. So I think we're going to see the layers of Bitcoin keep getting built. I think we're just going to see like this hyper Bitcoinization of adoption with other countries, maybe even a Bitcoin standard against the dollar. So instead of gold, we'll have like a Bitcoin standard. I really think these things are going to happen.
They're happening. Yeah, because
that might happen sooner than we think, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things that was the argument for maybe some other crypto, that Bitcoin couldn't do smart contracts or stuff like that, but now it can be done with Lightning Network, Liquid Network, and I'm actually working on that right now. So I really know that it is super possible, and it's way better than it's over on top of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is decentralized and it cannot be changed. And now we have all the things that can be done fast and smart on top of that, thanks to Lightning.
Before we wrap up, can I just touch on what you were just saying right there as well?
Yeah.
Can I just because like Bitcoin can't be changed as long as like everyone keeps it the same, right? And people have arguments that it could be changed, could be, you know, co-opted, for example. I reckon that it's like our responsibility right now to protect Bitcoin at all costs, to keep it a $21 million cap, to keep decentralizing Bitcoin, because countries are going to start to attack it based on the whole climate change nonsense. And I think it's like our responsibility to just make sure that Bitcoin stays true to its grassroots as much as it can. It's going to evolve, you know, but I think that's super important, because if it gets co-opted, then it's like, I say this, like it's freedom technology, but if outside forces come in and mess it up, then it's enslavement technology. You know? And I think it's important for us to just make sure the train goes in the right path.
Every single day there are more nodes, more nodes setting up in here in the country. So I really appreciate your time. I know that you just stayed awake just for like the interview, and I'm sorry because like it's super weird, like the time changing. I didn't even know that it was another day in Australia or something like that. And it's super funny, and so I really appreciate you, and I hope we can talk again and maybe you come to El Salvador, and I can keep getting on your insights and your opinions on what's going on here and with Bitcoin and in general in the country. So thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. I wish you all the best with the podcast, and I'm more than happy to jump on in say 6 months, and we can do a recap of where Salvador is right now.
Thank you. That will be great.
Into the mic.
This is the fertilizer.
Are you prepared to do that with hundreds?
Yes. I'm prepared to do this. All fiat money. I propose all of you take your fiat money out tonight and burn it, so that make a full commitment to Bitcoin. There's no going back. Don't ever go back to your fiat money ever. Buy some gold, because Peter's got to eat too.
You know what?
But never go back from crypto. I mean, we both don't like the dollar, except you've got a boner for gold in a reason that doesn't make any sense. Because they're compatible. We should be on the same page. Your customers want crypto. You're saying no. It's my ideology prevents you from making money. Well, your customers a year from now are going to say, "Why did you talk me out of this? You freaking idiot!" Because now I'm broke. Just like they did 3 years ago. It's going to happen again and again and again. The private key and say, "This is me. It's immutable. It's every 10 minutes. It's verified. And that's who I am. Give me my fucking money."
You don't need Bitcoin either.
Yes, you do, because it's the most secure. It's the only secure database that's ever been invented. That's the technology. You fail to understand that it's a new technology that is as profound as the printing press or the electric light bulb. You're comparing it to things that you shouldn't be comparing it to. It makes no sense. You're talking nonsense.
This is
it's a brand new breakthrough in technology. Your kids are going to be wondering why their dad didn't see the value. They'll be like, "Dad must have been on drugs because he never saw the value."
This is a cult of Bitcoin. This is your guru. This is the type of reaction that you're going to get. I mean, you might as well be Sung Young Moon or something, or just don't drink any.
Let me help you help yourself.